Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening. Merci d'être venu à cette discussion aujourd'hui sur le Yémen à un moment clé de ce conflit et de cette tragédie causée par les humains, par les hommes. Je m'appelle Nadim Khouri, je suis le directeur exécutif du Arab Reform Initiative, un think tank régional basé ici à Paris. Nous sommes co-organisateurs de cet événement avec nos collègues du Chatham Center for Strategic Studies et aussi nous remercions nos copartenaires et nos hôtes pour aujourd'hui, l'IREMO. Le Yémen, je vais introduire nos présentateurs dans une minute. Ça va être une discussion bilingue. Nous aurons certaines interventions en français, d'autres en anglais. Vous pourrez poser des questions après dans la langue que vous voulez, français ou anglais ou même arabe si vous le préférez. On peut assurer la traduction. Le Yémen vit un moment clé aujourd'hui. D'un côté, on est en train aujourd'hui, c'est le 5e anniversaire de la prise de la capitale Sanaa par les Houthis. Le conflit qui n'était pas censé durer si longtemps continue à durer. On est rentré ces dernières semaines, notamment depuis cet été, dans une nouvelle configuration du conflit. Le Sud s'est divisé, les alliés, les Saoudiens, les Émiratis ne voient plus du tout du même œil la sortie de crise et même sont en train de soutenir et de se battre par intermédiaires interposés dans le Sud. On a vu que le conflit yéménite, qui malgré cette tragédie humaine et le coût, n'intéressait pas en fin de compte grand monde parce qu'on ne voyait pas des réfugiés qui arrivaient en Europe, on ne ressentait pas l'impact de ce conflit, commence entre guillemets à exploser, comme on l'a vu avec aujourd'hui le conflit qui se propage de plus en plus vers l'Arabie saoudite et qui devient de plus en plus un conflit régional entre l'Iran et les Saoudiens. Pour nous aider un petit peu à déchiffrer, à comprendre cette dynamique-là, on a vraiment la chance d'avoir aujourd'hui à Paris avec nous 3 intervenants avec des informations clés sur ce conflit. À ma gauche, Linda Al-Ubahi, diplômée de l'ENA, de Sciences Po Strasbourg, et originaire du Yémen et qui a été présente et qui était conseillère à l'ambassade de France au Yémen à un moment clé en 2013-2014 lors du dialogue national. Et on pourra peut-être on va revenir un petit peu sur ce virage raté et comment on retrouve un petit peu ce qui n'a pas été géré dans ce passé-là qui revient hanter le Yémen aujourd'hui. À ma droite, Farea Al Muslimi, qui est le cofondateur et président du Chatham Center. Aujourd'hui, le centre de recherche yéménite le plus influent, le mieux informé, qui ont des chercheurs dans les diverses parties du pays, et qui va nous situer un petit peu l'évolution géopolitique de ce conflit et où en sommes-nous aujourd'hui et quelle possible sortie de crise ou quel rôle peut la France peut-elle jouer. Et à sa droite, Zaki Othman, qui travaille depuis maintenant presque 2 décennies dans des organisations internationales, lui aussi venant du Yémen, de Aden en particulier, donc un fin connaisseur de la dynamique au sud du pays, mais aujourd'hui vivant à Genève, et il va nous éclairer un petit peu sur ces derniers développements au sud, notamment depuis que ce qu'on appelle le STC, je ne sais pas en français comment on dit, le Southern Transitional Council, ont pris le contrôle de la ville de Aden. Et je veux déjà remercier Marion pour la traduction qu'elle fera du français à l'anglais à nos 2 panélistes. Si je peux commencer, Zaki, I would like to start with you. First of all, thank you for coming. Over this summer, dramatic events happened in Aden, notably, but in the south. And we saw the STC take over the city, and basically almost what Farea has described, a second coup in Yemen against the Hadi government, and we saw a split between the Saudi and Emirati alliance. Some people even talking about a divorce that has not yet been outed, but that there has been a divorce. You are yourself from Aden, and I'm wondering if you can give us a few remarks about what is happening in the south. What drove this division? Is this something recent? Is this something older? What are the key demands today of the STC? And how do you see the situation evolving in the south?
Thank you very much for giving me the floor to speak today about Yemen after 5 years of the conflict, and also to give me the floor to share my thoughts. It's not Yemen is one of the neglected countries in the region and in the world, and many people, they don't know basic, sometimes basic facts about this country. As I wanted, before answering your question, which is very important, I want just to go through to ensure that we are on the same page of some facts. Yemen was not one state before 1990. It was 2 states. And South was not one state before 1967. It was different sultans and emirates and mashakhat. So Yemen get united in 1990, which is a very significant year with the collapse of the Eastern Bloc. And South was part of that Eastern Bloc in a way or other. So 2 different systems get integrated rushly in one state. South was under a very tutorial system regime, and North was more, I will leave the North to the Northerns to talk about it. But we want more. So there was a patient, they were willing, a very strong willing from the South, because of the ideology they had, to get united with the North. To get united even beyond the North, with all the demands for Arab unity or Arab identity. However, before that, there is a problem also in the South about the Yemeni unity identity or South Arabia identity. There are some calling for South Arabia identity in the Southeast, which will be very important to note in the future when we analyze the current context or development or crisis. The war in Yemen, not as some of us, I think that's my thought and my opinion, is not between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. It's a regional war and internal dynamics between Yemenis. I can say from my side that, first of all, for Yemenis, the turning point towards the conflict was the marginalization from the center or elites of the center against the all other regions. And that's why most of people coming from the regions in Yemen, including regions in the north, they were with the federal system, the romantic idea of federal system that collapsed, unfortunately. Regionally, it's a war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Emirates and others involved, with or against, inside our country. Within Yemen, now moving towards south, we have something. As Southerns, after the unity, we had quickly a political crisis that ended with the civil war and invasion of the south, collapse of the south, where the northern regime or government or system led by Ali Abdullah Saleh, whose deputy was later on Hadi, the current president, dominated the south or dominated the whole Yemen, including and particularly the south, in all fields, including the human rights and the civil society field, not only the political, economic, and every single field. With some Southerns who were second class, second line of authority, like Hadi. However, the Southerns, after many years of being dominated by the northern regime, let's say, not the Northerns. They went outside for protest against this discrimination against them, starting from 2007. And their demands were all, like we can say, human rights-based demands. Many of them, they were dismissed from their jobs, military and civilians. And many of them, they did not get equal chance to all services, including high education. They had rights to demand. They wanted equality. They wanted to lift that discrimination. However, because of neglection and double standard of the Saleh regime, they moved ahead into more and more demands up to they reached to the demands saying that they are occupied by the Northern regime or by the Northerns, and became extremist to say this is occupation, and they're calling for independence. So things move differently, in a different way, because of the way that the Saleh's regime addressed the issue of the South. So South was ready for a revolution. Maybe they already started a kind of revolution since 2007. So they had protests every year, every month, big ones and small ones, being arrested and being dismissed from their jobs because of the way that Saleh regimes and their authorities or security forces dealing with the situation. Later on, in 2011, South did not participate heavily in the revolution against Saleh, thinking that this revolution is between Northerns, is a Northern-based issue. Not all Southerns, but many of them, they were curious about what's happening. Moving now to the war, to the current war. During the national dialogue, which was one of the impacts of the revolution against Saleh, it was a very good idea as well, that concluded with many things, positive things, including the federal system. Our colleague will talk about her experience on the national dialogue. However, just to point out that, to point something or to note something, that not all the Southerns participated in the national dialogue. Only one faction, almost, participated, because most of them, they were against. They were thinking that the Southern case or issue will not be addressed properly with the Gulf agreement, because they are still, as I said, they became extremists to the idea of independence. And they think independence is the whole solution, not the federal system. However, even the only team that participated in the national dialogue, they stepped back. They left the dialogue because of the proposal of six regions federal system. They thought that this proposal is not matching their expectations, it's dividing the South into two, and it's not genuine. And even the Houthis later on, they were also against this proposal, although they were part of it. One thing to note about the position, that the Southerns decided to leave peacefully, not to take arms against the national dialogue, while the Northerns, part of them, Houthis, they signed the agreement of the national dialogue, or they were forced, or they're divided. You can say whatever you want, but they signed, and then they made the coup against the outcomes of the federal system. The war erupted. Before the war erupted, Houthis entered Sana'a, the war erupted. Southerns, they did not participate in the war, although the war started in Aden. They did not participate in the war because they like Hadi, or because they believe that Houthis, they made the coup, or because of anything of the so-called legitimate government saying. They went outside because they were feeling that they are under occupation from the security forces and the military forces of Saleh regime that was mainly dominated by Northerns. So they went, when they saw the military camps open, and they got the chance to get their weapon, and they get someone to pack them, they went outside, and they resisted. Maybe many of us, they don't know that many of the northern governors fall down quickly under the control of the Houthis in few months or weeks. Well, the southern state, from the beginning of the war to 26 March 2015 up to the end of July, resisting, and maybe even beyond July, beyond the liberation of Aden from the Houthi Saleh forces, they they kept resisting with very minimum support, later became big by Emirates and by the Arab coalition for a reason. So they defeated the Saleh, not because of the coup, not because of Hadi's legitimacy. And that could answer later your question. They managed to liberate most of their lands. They get engaged in security operations with Emirates and USA against the Al-Qaeda, Akab, in Mukalla and in Abyan. And that's a positive thing to note down. And then they moved ahead, although they were not believing of any military operation outside of South towards the north, but they went to the coastal area. Who's fighting now in the north, I'm sorry, I will not go far, who's fighting in Hudaydah from the military forces, by the way, is not the Yemeni army of Hadi. Most of them are southern forces, militias, Salafists. Yes, they are Southerns, but they are close somehow either to Hadi's government, loyal to Hadi, or loyal to the STC. STC was established after the removal of some of the leaders of the STC is the Southern Transitional Council. It's one of the leading now organizations or councils, Southern councils, because the Southern movement later on managed in a way or other to merge under one umbrella, although it's not one, there are other umbrellas later on created. STC, Southern Transitional Council, got a very strong alliance during the war, which is Emirate, being fully supported with all security belts or forces in the south, controlling the southwest mainly. Southeast partially with division with other forces, including Ali Mohsen, the vice president, who is the head of, or one of the leaders of Islah Party. So the same thing that happened in December 2017 among the coalition of Houthi Saleh, when they fought against each other and Saleh was killed by the Houthis, there was no harmony in that political camp. They fought for many years, and one day, Houthis, they got their chance of getting Saleh out. Otherwise, Saleh will get them out. The month after, the other camp, the legitimacy government, or let me say it, Hadi's government, they also had the same thing. Another conflict erupted in Aden between the security and military forces supporting STC and Hadi's government, Southern Transitional Council. So that war or that conflict, in that month, STC was about to control Aden, but the coalition intervened, especially Saudi Arabia, to diffuse that tension. And now the same conflict happened again without going through some details that affected, unfortunately, some of the northern civilians who were working inside the south. But it was the impact of the ignorance from the elites or from the north and the south, who, I mean, the civilians in the north and the south are paying this cost. So why happened? It's very clear. There was no harmony. The legitimacy camp had this government. They have two different ideologies. One is calling for independence and having control of most of its land, while the Hadi's government side, who are mainly from the north, or with few, Hadi is southern, by the way. Hadi is southern, this is a fact. With some southerns who are thinking of, I don't know if I believe him, let me have a goodwill that Hadi thinks and believe of the federal system and one Yemen, which is fine. And some southerns also, they believe of that. Majority, they don't believe anymore with one Yemen. They believe of only independence. So there was no harmony, and the outcome of this conflict, it was like delayed for many years, for 5 years almost. Anyone who's calling for independence in the south is popular. STC is the strongest one, but whoever said that Southerns are not united, are divided against the idea or against the STC, or with or against the STC, should also look to the north. The north is also divided. Who said that the north is united? The north is divided between Houthis who are controlling some of the country and the Islah, or the legitimate government, and controlling the rest of the very few pockets in the north. Most of the north is not in the hand of Hadi's government. Most of the south is under the hands of the Hadi's government. Lessons learned.
No, I want to just ask you, sorry to interrupt you, but key question here. So is your view that the South is again close to independence? Yeah. Do you think the end game here is we're heading towards an STC-led effort for a new independence of the South? And just to throw a question at you, we know that the Saudis are trying to reconcile again between the Hadi government and the STC.
Yeah, this is very good. It's hard
to... so do you think there's a, is there an effort to reconcile these two parties?
In August last year, the special envoy, the UN special envoy, tried to bring, or to create a forum for the Sultans to be part, or for the STC or Southern groups, to be part of the negotiation between the two parties, the government of Hadi and the Houthis government. However, both of them, the Hadi's government refused the participation of the STC and refused to make them represented in their delegation, and the same, even the Houthis refused. What I want to say, within the framework, the UN framework, the UN Security Council Resolution 2216, it talks about two parties. So the special envoy says that I don't have the mandate to deal with the Southern case now, or to force you on the other parties to be part of any negotiation. So they are neglected. They felt that there is no way. Hadis is not representing them, is not including them, so they have to find their way. The scenarios. The good thing that they're having their land. They're having the security and military forces, and it's hard now the past few months and years proved that it's hard for the Northerns to get back, at least now, or let's say Northerns, I'm not talking about civilians, I'm talking about elites and security forces, to get back to Aden. STC is the strongest, but is not the inclusive. And they have a real problem, or they have two things in order to reach to their idea or their objective or goal. One, they are not comprehensive in terms of reaching out to the other groups. They failed. They want to be the only and the legitimate council for the South, or representative for the South, which is a big failure. And so they failed in this. The STC up to now is not able to make international outreach, to get international partners, to get into their goal. The only ally with them that they are getting stuck with is Emirate, and that's not helping them for future. Getting independence is not only about getting the land under your control, that you have to have your supporters, international supporters from outside. They will have a difficulty now to provide services, unless the only scenario, if this negotiation in Jeddah between the government of Hadi and the STC concluded with one possible thing, which might be that they could be part of the government with some ministers, or governors controlling the Southwest especially, who are loyal or nominated by the STC. And the most important is to be part of the delegation for any negotiation, because then they can represent their case. And that's the challenge for Islah Party or the Hadi's government dominated by Islah. So that's the possible scenario, but they would have a problem. In my opinion, the STC will have internally within the South a problem, because they were speaking high about the independence. They would have difficulty to go back to their people, to their supporters, to convince them that they are now part of the government, and the government beliefs of the federal system, and negotiation will not get anywhere except with federal system. The only possible thing is, just thinking logically, is a federal system of 2 regions or 3 regions, where the South has 1 region, at least for the time being. That's if we were successful of any peaceful resolution of this war. So that's the possible thing. However, it's not yet. We are divided, and the Southeast is not fully supporting the STC. It's divided between other political parties. They think that the STC is morely dominated by leaders coming from the Southwest, called the Dali' Radfan, which is somehow okay, but there are also people from the Southeast. The division inside the South is historical. It's like the division, one last thing, it's like exactly the division in the North. You know or not that North was not, there was no precedent in the North, except from Sana'a and above and the higher region. There was nobody from the from Ta'iz, from Al-Bayda, from Ma'rib, from the other neglected regions being ruling the North. So whoever says that South is divided, North is divided, but you don't know. North is divided, but you don't know.
Thank you, Zaki. I mean, this felt like watching an episode of Game of Thrones with a lot of different divisions. But I think it's essential to understand that these divisions were always there and that they have now only started maybe to get more attention, and that the narrative in Yemen is more complicated. Je vais passer en français maintenant. Linda, en écoutant Zaki, il a beaucoup parlé de cette solution potentiellement d'imaginer le fédéralisme différemment de ce qui est sorti de ces négociations en 2013-2014. En l'entendant parler, on sent que ces tensions étaient déjà à ce moment-là. Hein. Il y a beaucoup de parties importantes au Yémen qui se sont senties exclues. Et aujourd'hui, quelque part, le Yémen peut-être paye le prix de ces divisions qui n'ont pas été gérées. Tu as eu l'opportunité, la chance d'avoir, disons, un siège très rapproché, de voir comment les négociations se sont passées en 2013-2014 et qui ont mené à cette formule de fédéralisme qui, en fin de compte, n'a pas été acceptée par la force des armes. Est-ce que tu peux nous expliquer un petit peu, toi, pourquoi les négociations ont échoué après? Et est-ce que tu partages un petit peu cette feuille de route pour dire peut-être la solution, c'est en fin de compte pour le Yémen revenir vers un modèle fédéral mais divisé sur 2 ou 3 portions où les partis se sentiront représentés?
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis ravie d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui pour parler du Yémen. Ce que je vais faire aujourd'hui, ce n'est pas une analyse politique d'actualité, mais c'est un retour ou un partage d'expérience. Vu que j'ai vécu 2 ans d'un processus politique lors de la transition politique yéménite. Donc, avant d'aller dans les détails, en respectant mon temps, avant d'aller dans les détails sur ce processus de conférence de dialogue, j'aimerais bien parler de quelques dates marquantes de la guerre au Yémen et surtout de cette période de transition. En commençant par l'année 2004, c'est l'année où l'État central de l'ex-régime, c'est-à-dire de l'ex-président Saleh, a décidé de mener une guerre contre les Houthis à Sada. Et de 2004 jusqu'à 2006, la région de Sada a connu 6 guerres, et ce qui a créé en quelque sorte la question de Sada, qui sera traitée après au sein de la conférence du dialogue national. Deuxième date, c'est 2007. Je crois que Zaki l'a déjà mentionné. C'était la naissance de mouvement de Hirak du Sud. Donc, il a déjà expliqué que le Yémen n'a pas été unifié qu'en 1990, et c'était en quelque sorte une unification rapide et pas bien étudiée. Donc, première tentative de sécession, c'était 4 ans après, en 1994, qui a échoué parce que l'ex-président Saleh, elle a aussi organisé une guerre de séparation, et ce mouvement ce premier mouvement de Hirak a été échoué. Donc, troisième date, et c'est la date la plus importante, c'est 2011. C'était l'année de la révolution yéménite, de printemps yéménite. Des manifestations qui ont commencé au Yémen de manière pacifique et se sont transformées ensuite à des conflits armés et à un coup d'État. Donc, pendant cette année, toujours 2011, la situation politique au Yémen elle est arrivée à un point culminant. Donc, elle est émise aussi à des guerres, à des signes de guerre civile. Et c'est là que l'Arabie saoudite et le Conseil de coopération de Golfe a décidé d'intervenir pour la première fois lors de cette transition. Leur justification, c'était par responsabilité humaine, mais après, on sait que derrière, c'était aussi la peur pour leur sécurité nationale. Donc, la solution proposée à l'époque, toujours en 2011, c'était l'initiative de Golfe. Et c'est un moment clé, en fait, de la transition politique yéménite. Parce que c'est de la transition politique yéménite. L'initiative de Golfe a été... donc, cette incarnation de la solution a été signée le 23 novembre 2011. Donc, c'est en quelque sorte le Conseil de coopération de Golfe qui a choisi le mode de transition pour nous. Donc, le calendrier politique, le calendrier de cette initiative, c'était 12 ans. Et pendant ces 12 années, il fallait commencer par une phase préparative, préparer la conférence du dialogue national. C'était une phase essentielle parce que, comme avec 6 guerres à Saada, entre 2004 et 2006, et avec tout ce qui se passe au sud, parce qu'au sud, comme Zaki l'a expliqué, il y avait un sentiment d'injustice, parce que la plupart des richesses se concentrent au sud, et la majorité de la population se concentre dans le nord. Donc, on n'a pas maintenant le chiffre exact, mais je crois que c'est presque 5 à 6 millions de population au sud, contre 23 ou 24 au nord. Et après, nous avons toutes les richesses pétrolières, halieutiques dans le sud. Donc, ce sentiment, il fallait trouver une réconciliation, ça veut dire construire la confiance entre les Yéménites avant de commencer la conférence de dialogue national. Et il y avait ce qu'on appelle les 11 points et les 20 points. Les 31 points, c'était les points à appliquer pour rendre justice aux sudistes et aux nordistes, c'est-à-dire aux Houthis, pour qu'ils viennent à la conférence avec de bon cœur, avec la bonne volonté. Sauf qu'à l'époque, l'envoyé spécial des Nations Unies, Jamal Ben Omar, c'était notre premier envoyé spécial, elle a décidé avec Hadi de sauter cette phase. Et ils ont décidé de traiter la question de Saada et la question de Sud lors de la conférence de dialogue national. Donc, c'était le premier, je crois, premier obstacle, parce que c'est comme si on a reporté un grand obstacle pour la conférence de dialogue national. Donc, revenons sur le calendrier. J'ai apporté avec moi quelques souvenirs de cette conférence de dialogue national, le guide et un résumé de cette conférence. Je voudrais juste vous montrer quelque chose. C'est en arabe. Je voudrais juste... ça, c'est en quelque sorte le calendrier. Tout était clair pendant cette conférence de dialogue national. C'était... au départ, c'était décidé de faire 6 mois de conférence de dialogue national. Et seul problème, c'est que la gestion de cette transition n'était pas la bonne parce que c'est vrai qu'ils ont réussi à regrouper 565 Yéménites de toutes composantes politiques, il y avait une représentation de femmes importante. Pour nous, dans la vie politique, les femmes ne sont pas présentes. Donc, lors de cette conférence, on avait un quota de 30%, ce qui était énorme pour nous. Les jeunes aussi ont été représentés par 20%. Donc, sur le format, tout a été bien calculé. Sauf qu'ils ont décidé que la participation des membres de la conférence de dialogue soit rémunérée. Et chaque membre touchait à la fin de chaque semaine $500 qui pour nous, c'est-à-dire en faisant le taux d'échange en réal yéménite, c'est important. Donc ce problème a fait perdurer la conférence de dialogue national. On est passé de 6 mois à 10 mois. Et il faut expliquer que la conférence de dialogue national, elle avait lieu dans un hôtel de luxe. C'était le Movenpick. Donc, qui est situé sur une montagne à Sanaa. Donc, elles étaient en quelque sorte loin de la réalité. Donc, les Yéménites, hors de cette conférence, ils attendaient avec impatience de voir des solutions concrètes. Et les membres de la conférence, ils ont continué de leur côté de décider, de discuter, mais sans prendre en compte l'impatience du peuple à l'extérieur. Donc, je crois si ça, c'est le perdium. Le perdium, c'était un des problèmes de la conférence du dialogue national. L'expertise. On a deuxième point, et là, je résume en quelque sorte les obstacles ou bien ce qui a rendu la transition politique yéménite inachevée au Yémen. C'est la cacophonie d'expertise. Il y avait chaque pays de J10, c'est-à-dire les 10 pays parrains de la conférence de dialogue national ou de processus politique en général, dont la France et d'autres pays aussi. Chaque pays avait la possibilité de venir avec des experts lors de cette conférence de dialogue. Des experts de toutes sortes sur des différents thèmes. Le problème, c'est que ce genre d'expertise, elle a créé une sorte de clientélisme. Ça veut dire que chaque pays elle prenait en partie des membres pour les former sur un sujet précis. Et c'était pendant les horaires de travail de la conférence de dialogue. Donc, les Yéménites dans leur tête, les Yéménites membres de la conférence, ils étaient dispersés dans leur... c'est-à-dire, il y avait une confusion dans leur mission. Donc, sachant que aussi, comme il y avait une représentation importante des Yéménites, un tiers, je crois, des Yéménites au sein de cette conférence de dialogue n'avaient pas une expérience politique. Donc, de leur faire assister à des expertises de haut niveau, c'était quelque chose qui était inutile à l'époque. Donc, c'était une perte de temps, une perte d'argent, et c'est aussi un facteur qui a causé que les Yéménites, à un moment donné, elles ont perdu la crédibilité en ce processus. Donc, je voudrais rappeler que les Yéménites, quand ils sont sortis en 2011 dans les rues, à la place de changement, à la place de liberté au Yémen, comme c'était dans tous les pays de printemps arabes, elles avaient comme revendication des choses simples. C'est de lutter contre le chômage, de trouver une vie stable, d'avoir de la dignité, de la justice sociale. C'était des revendications de base, mais importantes, comme c'est le cas pour vous, Français ici, c'est la même chose. Nous avons à la fin les mêmes besoins. La réponse qui a été après fournie par l'élite yéménite, soutenue par les pays régionaux et aussi par la communauté internationale, n'était pas vraiment des réponses pérennes ou des réponses qui répondent à ses besoins ou à ses revendications. Donc, on est passé, lors de la conférence de dialogue, moi j'avais l'opportunité d'assister avec l'expert constitutionnel au sein d'un groupe de travail sur la construction de l'État. C'est le groupe qui était en charge de décider tout ce qui est texte constitutionnel sur la forme de l'État, le pouvoir de président, etc. Donc, à cette époque, moi, ça c'est un jugement personnel. Je trouve que au lieu de répondre ou d'investir l'argent qui a été dépensé lors de ce processus à créer des emplois, on a vraiment élargi la solution pour changer la forme de l'État, c'est-à-dire passer d'un État unitaire à un État fédéral. Est-ce la réponse? Est-ce la solution? Sachant que le Yémen, c'est un pays pauvre à l'époque. Voilà, donc au lieu d'avoir un ministère, par exemple, un ministère d'intérieur, on devrait avoir 6, c'est-à-dire passer d'un État unitaire vers un État fédéral avec 6 États fédéraux, n'était pas logique pour certains comme pour les soudistes et les Houthis. Sauf que les Houthis, comme Zakiye vient de dire, ils ont décidé de continuer la conférence de dialogue national sans avoir des obligations, parce qu'il faut rappeler que lors de la signature de l'initiative de Golfe, les Houthis n'étaient pas signataires, parce qu'ils ne sont pas un parti politique, et ils refusent de devenir un parti politique. Donc est-ce que c'était la bonne solution? C'est-à-dire en calculant en quelque sorte la situation générale au Yémen, je ne crois pas. Je pense que peut-être dans l'avenir, mais pas maintenant, parce qu'il y a d'autres problèmes qui cherchent à être résolus avant. Donc, pourquoi la transition a échoué? Je ne peux pas blâmer seulement les Yéménites. C'est vrai que notre élite politique yéménite, elle a raté sa chance. Elle avait vraiment un mot à dire lors de cette transition politique, parce que derrière eux, il y avait le soutien de la communauté internationale. Mais je peux blâmer en même temps les pays régionaux, parce que l'interférence, ce n'est pas une interférence militaire, comme c'est le cas aujourd'hui. Elle a commencé pas en interférence politique, c'est de ne pas laisser les Yéménites décider de leur avenir, c'est d'intervenir, de leur disperser avec des expertises différentes qui ne correspondent pas à leurs besoins ou au contexte politique yéménite. Et la question de per diem, comme je viens de dire, c'est beaucoup d'argent dépensé sans avoir un retour réel ou concret. Donc, en gros, c'est ça. Et si vous avez d'autres questions, n'hésitez pas.
Merci beaucoup, Linda. Moi, j'aurais une petite question avant de donner la parole à Farea. Tu as parlé du rôle des femmes durant les négociations en 2013-2014 et leur importance. Quel est le rôle des femmes au Yémen aujourd'hui au niveau de la situation politique? Sont-elles toujours présentes? Est-ce qu'elles sont marginalisées à nouveau? Est-ce que parfois on sait que la guerre parfois crée des opportunités, ça crée des désastres, parfois ça crée de l'espace? Où est la femme yéménite aujourd'hui de cette crise politique et de ce processus politique aujourd'hui qui est un petit peu au point mort?
Je suis contente d'avoir cette question en fait, parce que c'est vrai qu'on s'intéresse à la guerre au Yémen, à la couverture médiatique de cette guerre, à l'intervention de la coalition arabe, mais on oublie un élément essentiel et une victime de cette guerre qui est la femme. Parce que c'est vrai qu'on a eu un espoir en 2013, jusqu'au début de 2014, avec le quota qui est inscrit dans la nouvelle constitution yéménite, heureusement. C'est-à-dire si un jour on aura un retour de processus politique et qu'on aura cette chance de voter grâce à un référendum cette nouvelle constitution, je crois que le quota des femmes de moins 30% est toujours là. Et donc il y a beaucoup de bons articles qui figurent dans cette constitution, cette nouvelle constitution. Donc pour répondre à votre question, la situation des femmes actuelle, elle est difficile. Je ne peux pas dire horrible, mais elle est difficile parce que c'est vrai que les femmes ne sont pas sur le front pour faire la guerre c'est-à-dire de façon directe, mais il ne faut pas oublier qu'une femme à la maison, elle perd son mari, son enfant. Quelquefois, il y a des familles qui envoient leurs enfants pour faire la guerre, pour faire vivre une partie de la famille. C'est obligatoire parce qu'il n'y a pas de salaire, les fonctionnaires n'ont plus de salaire, le secteur privé, il n'y a plus de secteur privé actuellement au Yémen à cause de la guerre. Donc, sur le plan sentimental, elles souffrent, les femmes. Mais malgré tout, ce sont elles qui gèrent en quelque sorte la plupart des organisations de la société civile. Il y a un groupe des femmes qui est actif, qu'à chaque frappe aérienne, à chaque intervention ou violation des Houthis, des violations des droits de l'homme, elles sont là, elles ont leur mot à dire. Elles envoient de temps en temps un communiqué à l'envoyé spécial des Nations Unies. même si de temps en temps, on n'a pas encore un retour, mais quand même, c'est-à-dire ils réagissent. Mais il y a un point que j'aime bien évoquer aujourd'hui, c'est que le Yémen, c'est une société tribale. Donc, il y avait des lignes rouges. Et les femmes, je crois que même dans le pays arabe en général, mais les femmes, elles ont en quelque sorte un statut particulier. Ça veut dire que même pendant les guerres, on essaie de les respecter, de ne pas les intégrer d'une manière directe dans cette guerre. Cette ligne rouge, elle a été affranchie et je crois que c'est triste pour les femmes parce que actuellement, on arrête des femmes parce qu'elles se sont exprimées sur un point politique, c'est-à-dire sur les réseaux sociaux, elles ont donné leur avis sur la situation en général. On peut arrêter une femme pour ça. Et il y a quelques mois, il y avait, je crois, 180 femmes qui sont maintenant mises en prison. Et par les Houthis, dans la région des Houthis. Et ce chiffre, elle a augmenté. Maintenant, on arrive à presque 300 femmes. Et aussi, la femme, elle est devenue un élément de chantage. Ça veut dire on arrête une femme parce que son frère, elle travaille dans la politique. C'est pour obliger son frère ou son père de venir se présenter à la police, c'est-à-dire aux Houthis. Vous voyez? Donc, à quel point c'est sensible, mais c'est triste en même temps. Donc, et en dégradation de notre situation.
Merci beaucoup, Linda. Je vais repasser en anglais et passer le microphone à Farea. Farea, we've talked a lot about the local dynamics and the divisions of Yemen. And with you, I want to ask you a few questions looking at some of the geopolitics and the regional tensions between Saudi and the Emirates and today, particularly after the attacks on the Saudi Aramco and so forth, increasingly Yemen is caught in this proxy war. But before I hear your thoughts about and your analysis of this, as Zaki mentioned, you're a northerner. When we talk about the Houthi control of Sana'a, okay, after 5 years, can you describe to us what does this mean? I mean, are the Houthis also building their own state? You know, if the South, as you know, Zaki was describing, decides to kind of have more and more autonomy, more and more independence, the Houthis, which after all came, from my understanding, from the mount, you know, I mean, they're not the Sana'a original inhabitants. They sort of came down from the mountains and took it over. Are they building their state? You know, are they transforming, changing state institutions, or is there a sense that their presence and their control is only transient for them to have a stronger negotiation hand in any future negotiations? If you can talk a bit about this, and maybe then talk a bit about, you know, take us to the regional dynamics, the regional tensions, and how you see the situation evolving.
And you want to finish tonight?
I want to finish tonight. In 20 minutes, please.
Okay. I was warned ahead that I speak too fast, so if I do, please wave a hand at me. But thank you again for that. But thank you for being here and for the opportunity. Maybe let me start with the first part of the question, which is the regional proxy war. Yemen's war is partially civil war, partially proxy war, and partially everything else. It's in this way you can, and I think you should look into Yemen's war. With the first part, when it comes to the part of a proxy wars, which seems to be a trend around the world right now, or a new way of conducting wars, where external big rich powers use local agents somewhere around the world to do their achievement, or to achieve their goal and to fight on their behalf. And also the assumption with these proxy wars is that usually these outsiders have a complete control over their local agents. So, and usually the other assumption about the proxy wars, and there is a reason why I'm taking a bit into going through this trend of a proxy war. And the other assumption usually is when the outside actors agree, it's usually the proxies they sacrifice, as happened in Syria with Trump and the Kurds. That's usually the theory of Yemen, and that's of a proxy wars, and Yemen war is partially a proxy war. But in Yemen, what Yemeni actors have done is they completely changed the dynamics of a proxy war and it's up, down. Why I'm saying that? Because if you think about it, one of the biggest losers of this attempt in Aden is actually Saudi Arabia. Because its entire legal intervention in Yemen is torn apart by that time. It's basically what UAE did, even according to international law, is actually illegal, basically. Now, the problem is there was some people who had schizophrenia or didn't want to open their eyes, but the Southerners were very clear since the past that we want. Aidarus al-Zubaydi was very clear. He is going to fight the head of the Southern Transitional Council, the council that did the mess in Aden. He was very clear since years that I am going to join Saudi Arabia to gain the independence of the South, not to bring Hadi back to power. He was very, very clear about that. And even in 2012, he said if he needed, he will ally with the devil or something like this to achieve that goal. And he actually was right in the sense, I mean, he was honest and very open about his thoughts. In 2015, until then, Aidarus al-Zubaydi was actually on the payroll of Iran. But Iran asked him to ally with the Houthis at one point, and he said, no, I am allying with you to gain an independent South. And he actually was the very first person who kicked the Houthis out of Al-Dala, using a military unit that actually was a trend by Tehran in the past. It's almost hilarious in a way, but he was confusing, but it's also what Yemeni actors do. They're very good throughout history in abusing and using their local supporters for their own very specific Yemeni goals. I'll give an example about, I find it this year that explains to me the Aden problem and the Saudi paradox there. 200 years ago when the British, there's an anecdote in Yemen, I'm not sure it's accurate, but it's a very telling. 200 years when the British came to occupy South Yemen, they wanted someone to translate their propaganda flyers and posters. And they saw this tea merchant guy who sells tea. And they were very impressed by his English. His name is Omar Bahibri. So they said, can you translate these posters for us? He said, sure. And then they went to distribute them. 3 years later, the man got really rich. Only by then, the British realized that the guy had been slipping his tea advertisement in their posters, says, buy Omar Bahibri tea, the best tea money can buy. And it's just an extreme example of this anecdote and this actually paradox. Every outsider who comes to Yemen think that they are using their local ally for their own goals, only to wake up a few years later into a very, very heartbreaking realities. There's another example of that if you want to go back all the way to 2001, when it was the time of war on terrorism. Ali Abdullah Saleh, immediately as the greatest tea merchant in the history of Yemen, noticed that this is the best way that he will milk the American cow, for weapons and for cash. So he immediately struck an agreement of counterterrorism with the US and actually milked the cow very well. He first used it to build his own military, the Republican Guard, rather than to fight Al-Qaeda. But also what he did, he was an artist in abusiveness. What he did is, there was at one point this initiative sponsored by the Americans. You can actually see it in WikiLeaks, where they wanted to buy, there was around 100 anti-aircraft missiles in Yemen, in the hands of the tribes. So the Americans wanted to buy them back to decrease the threat. Saleh said, sure, $120,000 per rocket. That's what the tribes say. Americans, obviously, known for their very intelligent skills, said, sure. And Saleh bought it for $10,000. So he basically made $110,000, etc. Not just that, he's something. He was a school, only if he was a good person. He sometimes resold these rockets to the tribes, so he buys them again and builds the Americans. And there's even a WikiLeaks document about it, like later on when the Americans woke up into a very harsh reality. So that's one thing you really need to keep in mind. Yemenis are, have an impressive ability actually to even flip all theories and stuff into that upside down. And I think that's the part that's important about the proxy war to keep in mind. Now, the second part, or the one other thing I want to mention is, which is about the South, how this is also, because it's also an example of a proxy war, but it's also opened another proxy war between UAE and Saudi. And basically, these are two troops 3 years ago, went into Yemen 4 years ago, and basically bombed each other's forces in Aden. That is another proxy. But also what happened, in my opinion, and this is probably where I would disagree with Zaki, I think this is probably one of the worst things that can happen for any possibility of the future of an independent South. I think the ones who actually lost a lot from this are actually the Southerners. And I'll say why. Probably for 5 main reasons. First, Hani bin Break, or folks like him, and Hani bin Break is the head or one of the main leaders of the security belts, which is the UAE troops in Aden. And he's the guy who was the face of the battle against the government. This guy, he's no different from the head of Al-Qaeda, in my opinion. He's a hardcore Salafi, sectarian guy that actually is against everything the Southerners are, when you think about it. But he's now imposed, because of the outsider actors, as their leader and as their hero. And he actually was, until a few years ago, preaching against the South, FYI. That was the one reason. Second is, I think there was an inability to understand the politics, or the political momentum around the world right now. If you do your homework, you will go to Catalonia, you will go to Kurdistan, Iraq. No one in the world the last 2 years is ready for another UN flag. Not even the UN bureaucrats. No one wants to think of a new flag around the world and a new country, at least not now, or at least not in this way. So it really made the world more worried. As much as it gave the Southern strong and feet in the ground, it made the world more worried. This is morons, whether the heroes or whether the things that is happening there. And then a better approach would have been, yes, let's continue Aden, the permanent capital, temporary capital, sorry. Let's drag more embassies to her. Let's get the INGOs. Let's get Aden move forward the last 4 years, because this was the very first time since 1990 Aden started to gain power. Like really, that was the best chance that has ever happened to Aden since 1990. And that would happen. And then probably I would lobby the South around something called, 5 years confederalism or federalism, and then in 5 years referendum. I think that would have been a realistic approach and a way that probably they could have had a more of a buy-in in their attempt to do that. So that's, I think, the second reason why it's probably really bad news for the South, as it seems. There is something also, and this is where I agree with Zaki on why the Houthis went to march in the South, or Saleh, why did he ally with them? This was also because to ban not just the South, anything outside Sana'a from having any sort of power or of independence. Saleh's war against the Yemen was a war against federalism, was a war against decentralization. And in fact, in that one, he agreed they didn't like the idea of federalism, because also what it means is every region can have their own more power or more thoughts and more authority. And in that goal, he actually had the same goal or the same opinion, let's say, as Abdul Malik al-Houthi, and in fact as Total, who was also very, very anti-federalism for obviously clear contracts reasons. They were really worried that the Hadramaut, for example, would renegotiate their oil, and that's really bad news. So yeah, literally 3 people in Yemen, or 3 sides, didn't like federalism. Abdul Malik al-Houthi, Ali Abdullah Saleh, and the CEO of Total. For a very different reasons, obviously. Yeah? And that was another point where we actually really deep dived, again, because of their own reasons, into another hell. There was also something really bad, I think, happened for the STC, the Southern Transitional Council, recently, which is them losing the battle in Shabwa. Because Shabwa, Shabwa is technically a Southern governorate, but it's also in the middle. And it actually is not really friendly toward the Southern Transitional Council. And actually they didn't, Shabwa is very complicated. It's a tribal dynamics, it's a lot of loyalties, it's in the borders of the south and the north. It has very different math than Aden and Al-Dala and the Lahj, than the rest of it. And neither UAE nor STC did their homework there. So Shabwa really turned them back on their heads. and they were kicked out of Shabwa by also support from the Saudis by that time. But what that movement did is it was a very, very tough reality check for the STC, that you can no more actually claim you represent the South. You were just kicked by force out of another southern area. Obviously, whatever it is, I'm talking if they did their homework well in Shabwa, they wouldn't need, actually, no one would allow anyone to come. It's more complicated than that. Yeah. I mean, so not just Marib who came to support the Hadi.
We have to explain why Marib is relevant, otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Marib is a northern area. It's a northern governorate. It's right now trying to be Somaliland of Yemen. It has a very rich oil. It has and gas, and it's very dynamic tribal area. But most importantly, it's the headquarter or the biggest hub for Islah right now in Yemen. Not just for Islah Muslim Brotherhood.
Islah has Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah. But even it is basically a hub, and it makes sense actually why it's right now the hub of Islah. Because if you're in Islah, you will never be able to run to Aden. They just kicked you out. If you will never be able to stay in Sana'a, because again, the Houthi will put you in a prison. So it really technically and demographically obviously became the head of Islah, the capital of not just Islah, every northern Yemeni really. Because there wasn't much, it was a hub for every northern Yemeni who was opposing the Houthis, basically. Because they can't go to south, and they obviously, if they want to stay alive, they cannot stay in Sana'a. So it built that base for it, and it was supported. It definitely, what Zaki is saying is, it supported the army in Shabwa in its battle against STC. But also,
this is, I think, fascinating, and it's essential. And the complications of Yemen are very important because the narrative that we often read here is very simplistic. But I also want to, because I'm conscious of time, and I do want you to comment a bit about the bigger picture things, if you can, for a second. Where is Yemen heading now? Is there a risk that Yemen now, we're going to see a new escalation of violence in this new proxy war between Saudi and Iran? And, because someone's going to have to pay the price and there will be retaliation. Is this a concern you have? We talked about the whole narrative of legitimacy, from what Zaki was mentioning earlier, was built on this Hadi government that is the legitimate government that's supported by the Security Council. It's the government that France recognizes. But we've now realized, no one, in Yemen, he only represents now one faction amongst the many that you guys have been describing. So what does this mean? And what does this mean for French foreign policy today? I mean, how...
Toward Yemen. Toward Yemen, you mean?
Towards Yemen, yeah. I mean, what does all the, all this mosaic of all these competing factors with their own interests, their own histories, their own grievances, their own... and yet what you have at the international process is this idea, Hadi government and the Houthis and the Security Council resolution, which doesn't reflect what we are talking about here today. So how do we reconcile this? How do you see a way of sort of reconciling this and having better foreign policy for a country like France? And again, if you have an idea or if you have any concerns about potential retaliation in Yemen for the recent events and the recent escalation between Saudi and Iran.
I can start with the first part about France. I come here every year, twice, 3 times, meet with officials, press. And usually the most repeated but also fascinated question I get is, what do you think of a France policy in Yemen? And the problem is there is no French policy in Yemen. It's a simple problem. France has an Iran policy. It has a Saudi policy. It has a Total policy. It has some policies, but there is no Yemen policy to call it bad or good to start with. So that's, I think, right now also France calculations in Yemen seems, for obvious reasons, again, has nothing to do with Yemen. If you think about it, France did more diplomacy to buy a business class ticket for Saad al-Hariri than about the worst humanitarian crisis in modern history. Really. It's a hard reality true, but it is really true what happened. And there is, again, because we don't send refugees, our blood type is not oil plus, and there is so many list of reasons. And you have a lot of contracts with UAE, a lot of important strategic intelligence, relationship with Saudi Arabia, even more important than the oil. So again, all of these left Yemen to be as like the easy giveaway answer, or like forget about it. And that ultimately is what's leading us to there. We can talk about what France can do, or And that probably has to do with the UN Security Council resolution. You're a permanent country. There hasn't been even a single time France proposed a presidential statement or a new resolution in Yemen since 2015. And like not even proposing or even faking it. It was just like something we are going to have a stay in. But that's a different conversation we go to. Now, in the regional, like, of course, when you look to the attacks on Aramco last week, that is very, very bad news in Yemen. I don't know how this will play out and whether it came from Iran or Yemen or rockets or drones. The clear thing to me is Yemen will pay the price for this. It's a poor new proxy area in the middle of all of these rich guys. And obviously when there was anything good or bad and anyone wanted to talk to each other violently without being abused or accused of something, Yemen was very cheap and very low. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. If you spend $10 million fighting someone in Libya, you might just need $2,000 in Yemen. So it's again, and you have very cheap local actors, like whoever they are from all sides. But that's a different depressing story. But even within that, so I know it's a bad news and I know it's not, what worries me really the most is the recent Saudi-UAE fallout in Aden. This is more dangerous than what we all think. These guys, when they were on the same page, they went into war in Yemen. Imagine when they are not in the same page. Like this was when they were cool with each other, they decided to go do war in Yemen. And these are very rich countries, don't forget that. And they don't have parliaments, or no one to say yes or no or why. So but that's a different story. However, if you look back, actually this is not a surprising fallout between Saudi and UAE. It was coming, really, really coming for the last 4 years. And this is very clear. This divorce is, if you were really following stuff in Yemen, you would say, when is this coming? When is this new round of Peaky Blinders? And that was for one simple reason. First, there was very different goals. UAE priority in 2015 was not to go into war in Yemen. But it could not afford not showing up to a Saudi gathering. In fact, by that time, UAE priority in the region was fighting Muslim brotherhoods, whom Saudi said, come with us, help Muslim brotherhoods in Yemen. It was very self-defeat goal from the beginning. Like it doesn't add up, even in the list of goals. But of course, we don't disagree in public in the Arab world. This is very sensitive, the personal politics of it. It would have been, even by that time, Qatar actually couldn't afford not showing up with Saudi, by the way. Even though if it only showed up by Al Jazeera Arabic, and actually Al Jazeera English, it set up the Saudis. But even Qatar could not afford by that time. That was the first problem, is different goals. Second problem is destiny of geography. Saudi Arabia has 1,500 kilometers of borders with Yemen. UAE has none. So the limits and the choices of UAE and the horizons and the possibilities and the emergence are completely different from UAE. In another word, actually, in my opinion, Saudi Arabia does not mind separate independent South Yemen. In fact, it actively, militarily and politically supported South Yemen in its defense in 1994. But by now, Saudi can't afford more than one headache in its southern borders. And it just have a very different math. If tomorrow the southern project fails, they can pack and go home with the least possible risk. That was the second problem. Third, the problem is a very big country, very small country. And then there was something in that important absence or in that relationship was bureaucratic. The bureaucracies and structures and systems and laws and decision making in Saudi Arabia is very different than the one in UAE. So even when MBS and MBZ were on the same page and on the same goal, or had the same mind, which first didn't exist, but let's say, even in these rare moments, their bureaucracies couldn't work together. Their staff couldn't meet with each other. And Saudis were very slow, and also Saudis have very different power centers. In UAE, there is 3 people who rule UAE. MBZ, MBZ, and MBZ. In Saudi, it's more different, the way of it. So again, these different motives, goals, thinkings, borders, destinies of geographies, have actually slowly, as you can see, made them bring into the edge of a divorce because also they really didn't know what they were doing in Yemen. They just went because Saudi said, Yalla, you gotta show up. But That was the thing. I'll stop it there and then I'll come back if there's any questions. But sorry for taking
Thank you.
over.
No, not at all. I think it was fascinating. Thank you, Farea. I will now open the floor to the question. Maintenant, je vais demander qui a des questions. Si vous pouvez aussi juste vous introduire en posant la question. Et si vous avez une question adressée à quelqu'un en particulier ou au panel.
Je vais peut-être le faire en anglais.
Oui, comme oui.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for this conference. I am Arman Tai, and I had a question about religious issue in this conflict. In particular, about the relation between Iran and the Houthi. So I will not explain theologically, but in short, Houthi, they are mainly Zaidi, while Iran, they are Twelvers. So I would like to ask, the Houthi, the Zaidi Muslims were very different from Twelvers, but now there are these relations and this support from Iran to the Houthis. Do we see now more links between Zaidi and Twelvers? Do we see a Twelverization of Zaidis? I don't know how to say this. And in short, now in the territories controlled by Houthis, do they rule, I would say, similarly from what we see in Iran or not? And yes, I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Can you
Thank you.
more than one?
Yes, I think we'll take a few questions and then we'll address them.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks to the panel for their very informative presentations. I have two small questions. First, there is now obviously a very powerful offensive, a reactionary offensive against any move, however limited, towards democracy anywhere in the Arab world. And Yemen is part of it too, although it has very peculiar aspects. But now there seems to be a split within this offensive between Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Egypt on one side, and Qatar and Turkey on the other. And actually, in Libya, they're even fighting each other, these two, through Haftar on one side and the internationally recognized government on the other. So my question is this split present and active in the Yemeni conflict? And my second question is simply what happened to the very brave and courageous men and women who started the initial pro-democracy uprising. And is there now today any channels for expressing democratic concerns and or even demands within the conflict?
Can you say your name?
S'il vous plaît, c'est possible. And maybe one more question. Oh. Votre nom?
My name is Rashid Farati.
There's one more question, and then we'll do a round of answers, and then.
Lucy McNeese. Je vais parler en anglais, mais d'abord, excuse me. First, I think it is remarkable that we're holding this 2 hours here talking about Yemen, which is so poorly understood by intelligent people all over the world, because, well, there are many reasons, but, and you made such a good point in the beginning, Zaki, when you said that the conflict began, and you made the point when you were talking about the décalage between the discussions about the form of the government and the economic needs of the people. But the needs of the poor and the marginalized in Yemen has been a problem for a long time, and it's very important to remember that. And actually, important to remember the beginning of the Houthi uprising, too, and the people in the south who were marginalized. My question has to do with your question when you asked this man, whose name I can't remember, okay, sorry, about the nature of Houthi governance in the north. And because I really think the Houthis are poorly understood, and I wouldn't say that you don't understand them, but you brought up something that I've wondered, but most of the specialists say the Iran-Houthi marriage is overstated. Nobody doubts that they're getting help, but in terms of whether they're becoming a little Iran in the Gulf or something like that, I don't know. So if you could answer that, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. So I think we'll take a round of answers now, and then we'll open it again for questions. And who would like to start? Do you want to start, Farea, and then Zaki?
Going to your question, and I think it's the nature of the Houthis, but Farea will give more details. Just want to remind you, as you said, the Houthis are Zaydis by sect. And in Iran is the Shia, Ithna Ashariya, we say the 12th. I believe, I'm not a Zaydi, but I believe there was no sectarian tension in Yemen. I don't believe even in the north it was not an issue. But recently from our neighbors was part of the impact of tension between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So what I believe that it's a political project. Houthis are a political project for Iran. It's not exactly it's a sectarian war, or it's that Houthis are converting, but there are elements. Some of their leaders, they were trained there or studied there. But I think it's my belief, it's political project. Similar to the political project with some differences in South Lebanon, but in Lebanon, they are Shia. They are sharing the same sect. Here, they are not. Just want to remind you that the grandfathers of Houthis are the Imamite regime who was controlling North. So it's the same ideology, the same way they are getting back their they want to get back their historical state. Taking in note that in the recent history, Saudi Arabia, in the past, in the 1962 before, they were fighting with the Houthis, with the Imamite regime to come back, who's Zaydi regime mainly, to come back to the power against the Republicans who were supported by Egypt at that time. So things changed. Now Houthis are against Saudi Arabia against the Houthis, who were hosted by Saudi Arabia one day. Things changed. The unique thing in the Yemen conflict, everything collapsed. All the alliances changed.
Oui.
Je voudrais ajouter aussi un point sur la nature des mouvements houthistes. C'est une question qu'on me pose dans chaque conférence. Est-ce qu'il s'agit d'une guerre religieuse? Et je donne aussi mon avis, comme c'est le cas avec Zaki, ce n'est pas une guerre religieuse. Cette marque a été donnée lors de la formation de la coalition arabe. C'était le jour où la coalition, c'est-à-dire l'Arabie saoudite, a demandé à des pays non arabes, islamiques mais non arabes, de rejoindre la coalition, comme l'Indonésie, le Pakistan, et le Sud. Le Sud non arabe, oui. C'était de faire partie de la coalition. Donc, c'est là qu'on demandait à ces pays de venir faire partie de cette coalition pour défendre le sunnisme. Parce que l'Arabie saoudite, c'est le pays garant de sunnisme et l'Iran, c'est le pays garant de chiisme. Donc, c'était ça qui a donné cette marque religieuse. Mais au départ, la guerre au Yémen, les Houthis, la base de leur mouvement, c'était la volonté de faire partie de pouvoir, c'est-à-dire d'avoir leur part de gâteau. C'est tout. Voilà.
Si je peux me permettre, pas un seul moment, j'ai demandé si c'était une guerre sunnite-chiite. Pour moi, ce n'est pas le cas non plus. Je me permettais juste de demander, est-ce que les Houthis, religieusement parlant, sont de plus en plus influencés par l'Iran? Ouais. Mais je n'ai pas dit, est-ce que c'est une guerre sunnite-chiite?
À la fin de votre question, vous avez parlé des pratiques. Est-ce que y a... Là, je peux dire c'est vrai qu'il y a des nouvelles pratiques qui sont introduites actuellement à Sanaa, par exemple, célébrer Aïd al-Ghadir, des choses comme ça. Mais
c'est ça qui m'avait justement...
Voilà, mais moi, j'ai répondu à la question de cette manière.
Je comprends très bien.
Voilà. Mais pourquoi c'est pratique? C'est pas parce que les Yéménites, maintenant, elles s'intéressent à ces pratiques religieuses, parce qu'au Yémen, c'est pas comme au Koweït. Il n'y a pas des mosquées séparées pour les chiites, les zaïdites et des mosquées pour les sunnites. Au départ, c'était juste la façon avec laquelle on fait la prière qui fait la différence entre un sunnite et un chiite, donc dans la même mosquée. Donc, c'est juste pour vous dire que même les nouvelles pratiques, elles sont là comme en sorte de provocation. C'est pour provoquer, mais c'est pas vraiment pour les avoir, les intégrer dans la société.
Pour provoquer les Saoudiens.
Les Saoudiens et les sunnites en général qui sont un peu.
Bon, ça c'est pas moi qui vais dire s'ils ont raison ou pas.
Maybe just, Farea, there were a couple of questions that remain to be answered. There was the question of Mr. There about the two blocks in the region, sort of the Qatar, Turkey versus UAE, Saudi, and Egypt, and whether that dynamic is playing out today in Yemen. Basically, from my understanding, do Qatar and Turkey have a Yemen policy today? Are they supporting anyone on the ground? Are they trying to work to see Saudi fail? And then the other question, what happened to the early pro-democracy activists? And there was the question about the Houthi governance of Sana'a. What does it look like? I have to say, I was surprised by some of the images coming out recently from Sana'a during Ashura. I'm from Lebanon, and some of the Ashura images reminded me of what we started seeing in southern Lebanon, which when that happened, this was also seen as foreign to the way Lebanese Shia celebrated Lebanese Shiaism. 30 years later, Ashura in Lebanon is as Lebanese as it gets. It's become completely Lebanonized, even though it was very eccentric in the 70s. So if you can maybe address some of these issues, and are we seeing maybe the beginning of a longer change?
I do want to start though with his first question on the democracy, what happened to it, and why is there a movement against it? Because I think that's also probably the only question where I don't have a depressing answer for. But coming from the region, I look what's happening in Sudan with a lot of inspiration and a lot of free hope. Because what happened after that is after 2011, and this is for us important as a generation. This was the greatest thing we did in Yemen, in Libya, and I will do it again if I come back on that time or whatever. But regimes have made so sure to make us feel guilty, almost apologize, like look what happens, look to what it and it made regimes really confident. If you look to Umar al-Bashir, he was even traveling he was having UAE, Saudi support until his last days in power. And he was even taking flights to see his best friend Bashar al-Assad. The man was so confident. And then literally weeks later, the people were like, it was very important for us in that part of the world. Yes, there are bad news, there are horrifying things, but that's what Sudan so far has brought us, and I think that's important. Because it means you can never really stop the people, and it's almost like a flow, something good. So that's, yes, there is no politics today for us to be involved in. There is only violence, but the thought is there, and the spark within the people in the region, I think, is very important, or at least for me personally. Al-Jazair, I'm still worried. They have too much oil. They will drive a lot of attention and love from the West, like the Libyans. And it really, if you have an oil, you'd never want like a best friend from outside. But that was so I'm more worried, to be honest. I'm more optimistic personally about Sudan. And because also the model in Sudan, even how they solved it, is regional model. It was the African Union, not the UN. Like when not someone copy-pasting from Serbia, but someone from this region of the world knows what works and what doesn't work and what needs to be done. So it was important. So I don't know, but we'll see about that. I think that's also one of Yemen's biggest problems, is the fact about it's a democratic place. We had the first election in 1993. Before the Houthis took over Sana'a, we had 22 independent weekly and daily newspapers. And we are a country that is very fluid, very dynamic. We joined Marxism, we joined Nasserism, we ditched monarchism. We joined Arab Spring, and we were in the past Christians, Jews, and then we joined Islam. Very dynamic country, and that's why, really, the Gulf War is from Yemen. It's a dynamic place surrounded by a club of monarchies in one of the most stable areas in the world. I would not sleep at night if I'm a monarchy on the border of Yemen. And you have seen that even with Oman facing issues in Dhofar. And so that's, but that's something, a problem we're very proud of as Yemenis, that we're dynamic and we move. I do want to, if I have probably 2 more minutes, comment on the question of Zaydism versus Totharism. Look, go back to the Umar Bahibriti anecdote, because it's still, I think, relevant here. Deep inside himself, Abdul Malik al-Houthi actually thinks Khomeini is his proxy, not the opposite. Abdul Malik al-Houthi says he speaks Arabic, he's an Arab, he's a descendant of the Prophet, and even if you look to his, what they call Wathiq al-Zaydi, the Zaydi doctorism, and it gives him the exclusive right religiously to do ijtihad, which what doesn't happen with Hezbollah and the rest. So he really thinks Khomeini is his proxy, or like just his international, agent or something like that. So that's the core difference. And that's a core difference. You will also hear something usually which I find super ridiculous. The government or the coalition, they say, we have a new Hezbollah in Yemen. And that's the best compliment you can ever give to the Houthis. I wish they were Hezbollah. These guys know how to run a state, they know how to modern. It's somehow bizarre, but it is really, they have no political experience, they destroy the state instead of hijacking it, and they have no experience in who's Hezbollah's #1 ally in Lebanon? No, Michel Aoun, a Christian Maronite. These guys cannot tolerate someone who's not 99% Zaydis. So there is a pragmatism, there is politics, but again, it's easy, newsy comparison that puts him not in that end, or that I think the media consumes from governments and from regimes. That's, however, not the case anymore, because we have seeing slowly change. That the Houthis are, I think Iran is trying to make a coup of the Houthis inside, a more 12er, more supporter of them, and less, and one wing that reports to Qom instead of Saada. And that's, I think, part of Iran's strategy in Yemen is to even mock its own ally, actually. That's how much Iran is always ahead in these strategic thinkings of how to prevent that. But again, it's still an issue. What happened with the Houthis also when they did, and that's my last comment, in matter of the sectarianism, we can say there was no sectarianism in the war, and we can say there was, but it was hidden. There was a little bit. It's impossible not to deny it totally. But Yemen, it wasn't a place where religion or sect was the most decisive identity in a human being. It was the region. You're from Sana'a, you're from Aden, you're from... That was the decisive identity when it comes to Yemen. It was never really the religion, boss. But yes, when the Houthis took over, even our war with Al-Qaeda became a Zaydi war with Al-Qaeda. So you see, that incentivized the entire sectarianism tension in the country. Let alone there are new morons, who after 100 years of Sykes-Picot, to them, this part of the world, these borders doesn't make sense anymore. They are collapsing. Because you have the guy, for example, in Syria, who stayed for 50 years, taking a piss on Sykes-Picot and making it the empower of his regime and government, is now fighting to defend Sykes-Picot borders. Bashar al-Assad, when you think about it. So that because of this and because of how the borders are shaking, everyone is looking for a new way. And what's the easiest way? Sectarianism. Sunni, Shiite. Let's reborder these borders. But that's very dangerous. Because, it's like, this is Sunni, this is Shiite, this is whatever. This guy chooses Qat on the right, he chooses Qat on the left. It's a very simple narrative and look into the issue. But it is a real risk. And that's because there are religious militias taking power by force also, and trying to impose and mine our parts of the world. That's also how partially the Houthis rule in Sana'a right now. They have done two things. They either took the state and made a new one, like they did with the central bank, or they did with Namsha, replacing MOPIC, a Ministry of Planning. They made a new ministry their own, and they just found the old one to be bureaucratic and not loyal enough and takes a lot of money. So they made their own ministries. They made their own security intelligence. They dissolved Saleh's last security and intelligence, which is the National Bureau and the Political Security Bureau. And they made something called Intelligence Office. So, boom. And the bureaucracies they couldn't mock or they couldn't take. What they did is they appointed what they call a mushrif in every ministry, in every region, in every department. This mushrif is more or less like the Khomeini of the institution. He has no power officially in the line. He's not even a staff. He's nothing. But he is the guy who says yes or no, basically, from outside the bureaucracy of the state. And they have plotted these mushrifs all around Yemen. And usually this mushrif has two usually main characteristics. He is from Sa'da, and he fought with Abdul Malik al-Houthi since 2004. So very, very loyal people that he keeps around these areas. And usually they are people, for example, who never really knew anything about their topic. I remember, and this is my last thing, I promise, one of my favorite stories, one friend of mine used to work in the central bank in Sana'a. And then Hadi took the central bank to Aden. And there was a fight about the SWIFT code. So Hadi, because he's the legitimate government, the governor, they sent a letter to the Belgium company to say, no, you need to give us the SWIFT code. These guys are not right, and this is UN resolution, and so on and so on. After a long debate, the SWIFT code said, yes, sure, this is a UN, it's bizarre to us, but this is a UN resolution. So sure, you're the president. So suddenly the Houthis in Sana'a had no more an international financial operation. And one of these guys comes to the Houthi, he comes to one of his staff, and his staff says, well, we have no more the SWIFT code. It was taken internationally. And the guy's like, no, open it. He's like, I can't. He's like, you need to open the SWIFT code. Aren't you studied? Don't you know this? And he's like, no, but it's something in Belgium. It's an international company. And he's like, but you must have a key or a copy. Like the guy could not absorb what the SWIFT code was. And he was just like really harassing the staff that's saying, I just need this. I need it open now. And then he's like, warning, I swear I will prison you. And he's like, even if you tore me apart, I don't. I really can't do this for you. So yeah, there is that part of it, this mushrif, and then there is the mock-off agencies that they have done throughout the country.
Thank you, Farea. We'll take another round of questions.
Thank you for this conference. I'd like you to focus a bit on the personality of Abdul Malik al-Houthi, because we don't know that much things about him. Could you give us some insights about his personality, his psychology, and is there some kind of personality cult in Sana'a or in northern Yemen? Thank you.
Thank you.
It bothers me a little bit when we speak about the war in terms of political parties or political groups and so on. While when we speak about the war, we speak about military arm, military forces. That is why we should speak who has the military power to determine the destiny of the war, the end of the war, or the continuation of the war. We should say, frankly, and I say this to my friend Zaki, that when we speak about STC, South Transitional Council, we speak about the tribes of Abdala, Radfan, Yafa. When we speak about Houthis, we speak about warring tribes in the north. It happened that I wrote 2 books about the historical meeting between the warring tribes in the north and the Zaydi Imamate. And I am coming from Sana'a 3 weeks ago, and I feel that these warring tribes are really heading out to control all Yemen. When the question is, when Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates will withdraw, and they will withdraw 2 years later, 1 year later, 3 years later, they will withdraw. They will not continue. We see what happened now between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. They will not continue endlessly. Then, when they withdraw, it remains the tribal forces, the warring tribes, who will win. Ali Zaid.
Merci. C'est très... je vais parler en français, j'espère que vous allez traduire. Sadek Al-Sar de Salam Fou Yémen. Nous, dès la première jour, on a dit que le Yémen viendra, comme vous avez dit, un problème tribal, un problème religieux, comme certains essayent de dire, c'est entre chiites et sunnisme, etc. Sud et nord aujourd'hui, sud et sud, comme hier. Donc, Disclose nous a montré récemment qu'il y a une politique des famines au Yémen. Donc, stratégie des famines. Pourquoi j'ai dit ça? C'est pour expliquer qu'est-ce qui se passe aujourd'hui. Et notre amie Linda l'a dit, c'est le dynamisme au Yémen. C'est le résultat de la Constitution qui a donné aux femmes 30%, qui a reconnu les jeunes d'avoir leur place. C'est aussi la seule, après la Tunisie, qui ont réussi leur révolte. Saleh a été comme limogé quand même. Ça, on ne l'a pas dit. Donc, après, on a essayé de créer des guerres. Souvenez-vous de l'accrochage entre Al-Ahmar et Saleh, la tentation ou le coup, comment on appelle ça? L'attentat contre Saleh aux mosquées. Donc après, quand on a laissé rentrer Al-Houthi à Sanaa, qui a aidé? C'est Saleh, mais aussi Abdrabbo Hadi, avec l'aide de l'ambassadeur d'Arabie Saoudite et des États-Unis. Parce que c'était le seul qui pouvait voir Hadi, parce que Hadi ne recevait plus personne et ne coûtait plus personne. Donc, vous l'avez dit vous-même, le Yémen est le maillon faible. Donc, on a saboté la révolte en Syrie, mais au Yémen, on l'a saboté aussi. Au début, avec la transition qu'on a prolongée, vous avez dit à cause de l'argent, certes, mais aussi Hadi ne voulait pas quitter le pouvoir, et l'Arabie Saoudite et les Émirats, derrière, les pays de Golfe, derrière, pour saboter la révolte du Yémen. Donc, nous, le Yémen aujourd'hui est le maillon faible, et on essaye tout. On essaye de les tuer, on essaye l'armement, hein, tout. Hier, on a vu qu'il y a des bateaux français qui participent au blocus. Donc, à mon avis, c'est vraiment dommage qu'on essaye de s'éloigner de la vraie problème. Vous dites que c'est le Sud, et vous avez donné une image très, très positive. Moi, je suis pour l'indépendance des Sud, s'ils veulent. Mais les Émirats arabes unis, je vous demande, est-ce que le Sud a besoin de 90 000 soldats pour l'indépendance? Est-ce que le Sud, ce n'est pas des bombes à retardement avec tous ces milices, et notamment les salafistes, qui sont proches, que vous le savez mieux que moi, d'Al-Qaïda? Donc, essayons vraiment de parler aussi des côtés humains de cette guerre atroce que l'intervention de la coalition a causé la plus grande catastrophe humanitaire aujourd'hui. Merci.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Parce qu'après, je pense, on va fermer les questions et on aura les dernières réponses.
Sorry, quick question. So we spoke about
you can
the
also
word.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, okay. My name is Dana. I have a question because we spoke about sectarian, that the word in Yemen is sectarian or proxy. So it's in line with what you said. Is it also in part a tribal war? I don't think we talked about this part because this is important. Can we, as outsiders, consider also that it is in great part a tribal one, a tribal war? How about also my second question is the recent declaration of the United States that when they want to speak to Houthis, what does this reveal to us?
Okay. And I think there was a last question there.
Oui, c'était simplement une question sur... en fait, vous avez dit que le mouvement Houthi s'était lancé sur des considérations économiques. En tout cas, c'était ce que vous l'avez dit, c'était vouloir avoir la part du gâteau. Et du coup, je me demandais, puisque c'est avant tout de considération économique, c'était pour pallier, si j'ai bien compris, à la marginalité de l'espace de Saada. Je me demandais s'il y avait un projet politique clair qui était associé au mouvement des Houthis, puisque si on regarde historiquement parlant, depuis la révolution de 1962, ils ont pu être associés à comme un régime monarchique, donc celui du royaume moutawakili du Yémen, Et c'est même une chose que le président Saleh a beaucoup diffusé, notamment pendant la guerre du Saada, tout un phénomène de propagande pour essayer de les associer à une sorte de mouvement réactionnaire pour revenir à ce régime monarchique-là. Et du coup, je me demandais aujourd'hui, et eu égard à leur participation au printemps arabe au Yémen, s'ils avaient un projet politique clair. Voilà.
Okay. Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Thank you. Wahiba Farea, former Minister of Human Rights in Yemen. I wish Farea could have begun or started talking about Yemen, the golden days 20 years or 15 years ago. It was really the democracy and women participation in politics in Yemen. Unification, yes, there were a lot of problems this time in Yemen, but at the end, now when we compare, not to banish the youth when they go for revolution, no, but because we have also to look to the reasons why Yemen why this has happened to Yemen. I think, first of all, geopolitical situation for Yemen was the most important point here. Gas or oil was the second reason to have all of this problem in Yemen, because we don't have, we didn't get this warm welcome from Saudis and Emirates to interfere in Yemen issues when we were very poor, when we were under a lot of problems, economical. But now they are spending a lot of milliards of money just only to support Hadi, which has no the right anymore to continue ruling Yemen in any way. South is look like it's independent now. It goes far away from unification. North is under illness, under war, under destroying everything in it, especially schools, hospitals, all important institutions are destroyed. And I wish we could have said that was maybe the reason, the democratical period of time when we started to grow democratical, and also it was one of the reasons. Besides, there are a lot of hopes of Arab neighbors, Yemen neighbors, to control ports, to control airports, to control oil, and to control Yemen. In fact, Yemeni government under tables or on the tables, they were taking money from Saudi Arabia and from Emirates. And now they are taking it because they became like in front of the world that they are the people who are ruling, and they have the right to control Yemen. But in fact, it is money, it is business, it is dirty war in Yemen, and we have to look at it from this dimension. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over now, and because of time, I'll ask each of our participants, this is your chance to do any concluding remarks. So you've heard certain remarks, certain questions in the last round. If you want to address any of them, and also any concluding remarks, and maybe we'll start from there and make our way here. Does that work? Or you're itching to say something? No. I feel you're itching to say something.
I have a tendency to talk too much.
So it's okay.
Thanks for your questions. It's really complicated. I would not talk that much. It's really complicated conflict with the history. That's why I tried to explain part of that conflict, which is relevant within the Yemeni context. What I wanted to say in response to what you said and others, for the South, it was before the war. So it's not Emirate who created the Southern demands and the Southern. This is a point. Not all Southerns are sectarian, are Salafist, as you're thinking. One part of the Salafist is one faction of the Salafist is a member led by Hani bin Brek, as I said, is a member, leading member.
Sorry, I didn't say they are Salafists. I'm saying, I just to say even.
Yeah.
I'm talking about militia and even Salafists.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a combination of many. It's a demand of the people. Maybe it's about the mechanism they use. They should have used better to reach to their goal, which I agree with Farea, and I'm not against. I would, if I was among those leaders, I would do it differently. I think the way they are doing it is had a lot of, I will not say stupid, no, but I will say they're doing it, some of them with goodwill, but wrong way of doing. So, we have deadlocks. I mean, we have really internationally, as Farea also said, it's a very hard one to achieve with those partners. Tribally, yes, I mean, you said among the South we have divisions, among the North we have divisions. If one day, and this could happen, it could happen even very soon, Saudi Arabia stop the war for any reason, then what will happen to the internal actors? The ones on the ground, obviously, are the Houthis in part of the region. They have population, they have weapon, they have leadership. And now part of the South, they have the Southern Transitional Council and the Muslim Brotherhood in Maghreb and the rest in between and the civilians in between. Yes, we have those the three. And that's why I said the internal dynamics changed while the international, let's say the UN peace framework is still the same. And the people outside, they're dealing with the conflict of Yemen the same way, which would not lead to any peaceful resolution. That's from my side.
In less than 90 seconds, I don't know anything about Abd al-Malik al-Houthi. Is it a tribal war? No, that's too easy. I mean, what happened to the Houthis and Americans? They have talked in the past. The Houthis actually do say death to America, but they looted KFC in Sana'a. They like the chicken very much. Really, they have been talked in the past and they have met. And last time I know they met in Muscat. I know in Stockholm actually. And now they are talking by support of, I think, facilitation from Muscat and Qatar, who are also having a third new proxy war in Yemen. Watch for it. I don't think there is any, the problem is there isn't the last man, weirdly enough, the last man was a champion for peace within the US administration, ironically enough, was actually James Mattis before he resigned, if you remember. It was even one of his last speeches, he said, okay, this is what the war looks like and this is how it's end, and he was being a champion for peace by that time. There is no one I know right now in America who is thinking of that way. Of course, it's an economic and political goals for the Houthis. They are not a pro bono. And then finally, just on the golden days, I usually try to avoid talking about this area because first, I don't think it's golden, but even if it is, I go usually into a fight with my dad about it because he, I tell him, or this is my point of view why we ended up here, is because his generation, inherited syndicates, political parties, elections, oil was just booming. And guess what you guys left us? ISIS, Qaeda, Houthis, militias, armed groups. Really, and he says it's our fault, I say it's their fault. But if clearly for me, if the generation before us did a better job, we wouldn't be here. But also it wasn't the golden days, except for very few people around the country. You had 10 families in Yemen. I'll tell you, if I can. We had 10 families in Yemen that controlled 86% of Yemen's telecommunication, import, export, finance, banking. Literally 10 families in Yemen, according to Chatham House report in 2013. They controlled 86 from the needle to the tank. Whether you wanted to buy a needle from outside Yemen or the tank that it has to come through these 10 families. And then, and this is why I think we ended up here, we had one department in the Ministry of Defense. And this is why I think also in the whole region, not just in Yemen, you look to Sudan, you look to Algeria and Libya, what has happened with these former regimes who gained the horizon of a country, but left us a dead body. You had one department within the Ministry of Defense in Yemen that had budgets that are equal to 12 ministries and high-level agencies. 12 ministries, including Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Technical Education, and another 6 major institutions. You prepared the country to be mines and fighters. It's a budget line. How much do you put here, and how much do you put there? And then later on, you will gain the results of it. I would never dare to answer a question by you, Doctor. And just for the sake of record, Doctor, he throws his books like this, or that he's an author. He wrote the most important books, in my opinion, on minorities and the establishment of modern Yemen. I grew up myself reading them, and I would never dare to try to answer a question you put. I hope I'm a little bit smarter than that. Thank you.
Elle reste la question sur les Houthis, leur projet politique. Pourquoi on dit que leur objectif de départ, c'était d'accéder au pouvoir. C'est parce que les Houthis, quand ils sont sortis aussi avec les jeunes révolutionnaires dans les places de changement en général, elles prétendaient à l'époque d'avoir les mêmes revendications que les autres Yéménites. Sauf que dans l'idéologie des Houthis, c'est un groupe qui a cette réflexion c'est-à-dire ils ont cette suprématie. Ils pensent que parce que elles sont descendants de prophètes ou elles sont pro-Houthis, qu'ils ont le droit d'accéder au pouvoir, qu'ils ont le droit d'avoir une partie de la haute fonction yéménite. Donc c'est par un mérite qui existe dans leur tête, mais c'est pas réel. Donc les Houthis, ils ont tendance de ne pas respecter leurs engagements. Ça veut dire, si je donne un exemple, elles ont accepté, elles ont été forcées de se transformer en parti politique. Ils n'ont pas accepté parce qu'elles savent que si on se transforme en parti politique, ça veut dire qu'on aura des engagements, on aura des obligations. Donc, elles ont refusé et c'est pourquoi elles n'ont pas été sénataires de l'initiative de Golfe. Mais après, elles ont participé à la conférence de dialogue. Elles ont signé les outcomes. Donc, il y avait 1800 décisions qui se sont transformées après à des textes concessionnels. Donc, elles ont fait partie de la conférence. Et lors de la conférence, chaque composante politique a été obligée de déposer sa vision à elle, dans les Houthis. Donc, elles avaient un projet politique, mais sur papier. Ce n'est pas vraiment un projet réel parce qu'au moment, ça c'est un point important, c'est au moment de la conférence du dialogue, les Houthis ils étaient en train de faire leur guerre à Amran. Donc il y avait une marche de Amran à Sanaa pendant la conférence du dialogue national. Ça marque qu'ils n'étaient pas tout à fait sérieux lors de la conférence. Et dernier point, elles étaient aussi, il y avait leurs membres au sein de la commission de rédaction de la nouvelle constitution et qui a refusé tout à la fin. Elle a assisté à toutes les séances, les parties avec le groupe en Allemagne, parce que notre constitution a été rédigée en Allemagne. Donc, elle a assisté à toutes les séances. Et au moment de la signature, elle a refusé. Et voilà, c'est toujours comme ça. Et dernière anecdote, c'est qu'au moment où il fallait déposer le texte final de la conférence, de la nouvelle constitution, au président de la République pour organiser le référendum, la personne, le secrétaire général de la conférence des dialogues et de la commission de rédaction de la nouvelle constitution, c'est la même personne, a été enlevée par les Houthis. Et ça a marqué, et elle est disparue pendant 15 jours. Et grâce à une médiation tribale, elle a été libérée. Donc ça a marqué la fin de leur engagement politique à mes yeux, à moi. Ça veut dire qu'elles ne sont pas sérieuses. Elles participent, mais au moment de there is no commitment, au moment de signature ou d'engagement, elles ne sont plus là. Quoi. Voilà.
Et je voulais juste conclure par remercier nos panélistes, vous remercier pour votre participation active et remercier l'IREMO, notre traductrice et tout le staff qui est resté. Merci.